I'm not gonna be able to hear me no way. Okay, mic check. Mic check. Oh, okay, cool. I can hear myself. All right, fellas. I'm gonna um, go through. So right now we have Kentucky, which is my boy Torselli, plays for University of South Carolina, starting right guard in real life. Um, so with that being said, he knows how to play. One of the better Madden players or football players I know. Had a good game with LSU. Comes in, takes Kentucky. 3.5 star program, beating out LSU. 4.5, 5 star program at LSU. That should be really big. It's going to keep him at 1. I'll get into some other things with Kentucky later, but shout out to T. First in the Big 12. First in the Big 10, you have D, Ohio State. That is me, obviously. Had a big win against Tymon, Torselli's little brother. Um, Extremely good at the game as well. One of the players that I brought over just to bring up some of the competition in the league. Um, Super, super good game, actually. young quarterbacks, young dual threat black quarterbacks running around at the helm, delivering and dicing up defenses. Defensive game at first though. So shout out to Tymon. Shout out to Ohio State though. Playing some of these young guys and on a five-star program, and they're still first in the Big Ten. They only lost to Texas. Speaking of, here's Texas. Um, with a forced win over Utah. I think they were beating them a lot worse. Good user though, understands his team, really good team. Number one in the SEC for a reason. Grown man football over there. Their loss to their win to Ohio State kind of looked like grown man football in the win, but um, there's also some connection, and just playing a young quarterback versus a team like this isn't smart. So, shout out to Texas though. I know he'll be looking to, you know, get into the playoffs with that bye and uh, make a push for the championship. Then you got number 4. Last week they were at 5. The Alabama, the Tide, nothing but the Tide. With J Dub, sorry, Coach Texans was on with is Marlin. Then we got J Dub with Alabama. Kept Milrow for another year. Which was a little surprising. Brought in some great recruiting class. Got some true freshmen playing that I'll be talking about a little bit later, along with some other teams. Um, Beat Kansas, who said was a really, really good actual opponent, and if had a better team, probably would be, a better user per se, or a better team in the league. But it beat them by 8 at Alabama. It looks like, and they play Virginia Tech this week, which is a CPU. 5, and move on to Notre Dame, which is Jordan, brought in by Tymon. Solid user. Been a solid user for a little bit that I've known him. Had a big win against NC State, and he plays Florida State this week. Should be another win for him, but he's third in the SEC behind Alabama and Texas. So looked like they already got a three-way battle, and this looks like to be the best division in college football right now. But solid. I'm interested to see what his recruiting class will look like with Notre Dame and how much he's invested into that. Because to place him in the SEC, he's got to get a certain type of level of recruits to consistently be able to compete with those teams. Because I'll tell you right now, Alabama's definitely signing people, and Texas does their one too. Um, the Missouri user, shout out to the Missouri user, second in the ACC. I have no idea who he's behind right now. But second in the ACC, ranked higher, so he just probably has to play some more conference games. Um, Decent user, it seems like, wins some pretty decent games with the 3.5-star program that he has. Got Missouri pretty well, built 87 across the board. Seems like to be a good user. I haven't personally played him, but I definitely plan to tune into one of his games. I'm sure. I think he has a receiver that's on the Heisman list, like third right now. So definitely, probably somebody that throws the football or just knows how to use his guys. So shout out to the Missouri user. Then we got LSU, which is Zell, who lost a tough game last week and dropped from 4 down to 7. Everybody else just moved up one that won their games. Plays Kansas State, which I don't think is a user. Oh, yes it is. It's Jerry. Kansas State. So he's got to make sure he goes into Kansas State. I don't know if it's at Kansas State. Well, it's at home. But another user that's solid, knows how to recruit, has a 4.5-star program to start. Kept him at a 4-star. Seeming to do pretty well. He's behind Kentucky right now in the Big 12, so that game that they just played was pretty big, probably for the conference. Excuse me. But solid user. He's got to go out and win Kansas State, probably win the rest of his schedule, depending on. Um, Arizona, don't know much about the user. I know Arizona's not a bad team. Um, and I think honestly it's pretty well for him to be a 3-star here, ranked 8, winning his games, taking care of business. First, oh, this is first in the ACC, so I wonder if him and Missouri have played. He's winning the ACC right now with the same record as Missouri, but is ranked less, so it's a little surprising. Has Tennessee, which doesn't have a user anymore. Try to get somebody in for Tennessee, so should be able to handle that versus the CPU. Um, and honestly, I think, like I said, this is pretty surprising to see him up here, but he might be decent, might be able to surprise somebody when it comes down to the playoffs. So next I got Texas A&M. Um, I gotta see what his force winds look like or what this all is. But decent user. I'm pretty sure Tymon brought him in, but he goes against Tymon next week. Well, this week. So should be a good game. I'm gonna try to watch this to really just gauge some skill level. Really tough home stadium. Really tough crowd when you go to Texas A&M. Plays good offense, good defense as far as the team, physical. So I'm hoping that he's bringing in those same type of recruits. To keep the culture kind of there and intact at Texas A&M. But shout out to him for being ranked top 10. Now, our last top 10 team was Oregon. It's been a little quiet. Uh, put him in. He's in the SEC. He's 1-2 in the SEC, so it's a little skeptical there if he'll tighten up for the playoffs. But he seems like he seems when he was playing, he seemed to be very intact. Got whooped on a little bit by Alabama, but it is Alabama and Oregon, as far as their team, isn't exactly SEC built. Excuse me, fellas, part two. But decent recruiting. Plays Utah this week, which Utah's hard as hell to get a game. So, pending that he can get a game. Um, but shout out to Oregon being ranked in the top 10. Auburn CPU. So we got Florida, who was in 13th and dropped to 12 versus the win versus Georgia. I don't think this was a forced win because Georgia didn't show up, if I recall. But competing to try to be one of the best team out of Florida. I know with Florida, the state and recruiting, you don't even have to go outside of Florida for real to get a good recruiting class. So I hope he's taking care of business in Florida because I know Miami, the team underneath him, is definitely taking business, trying to recruit, trying to get better, build his team, building his organization with some pride as if he went there. Some people's teams, these happen to be their favorite teams, so it's a certain sense of pride. I know me personally with like Ohio State and Pat with Miami. So it's good to see Florida up here ranked and playing well. And when we played with Lagway, it was pretty decent. Uh, Second right now in the Big Ten behind me. Um, but I think Florida's on the right path. I think he's got to be a little bit more active. Um, Drop down to Miami, who was not ranked last week, that jumps all the way to 13. Um, 2-2 in the Big 12. Fourth opportunity to clean that up down the stretch, I'm sure. Um, Needs to take care of, I want to say Oklahoma's a user. Yeah, so it needs to take care of Oklahoma, um, which is a user. So it's at Oklahoma. It's going to be a little tough. Um, Pat's just got to continue to build this program. He started off with Miami, 4.5 star program, blue blood. Got to be able to keep him that way. If it's not always in the gameplay as far as being 4-4, you got to play conference wise to be able to give yourself a chance, and then keep bringing in recruits to address the situations where you just couldn't surpass certain teams. Um, Plays like a SEC team, but obviously is in the Big 12, so that's got to translate with the type of run game that he really wants. UAB, we're skipping CPU. Louisville. I'm pretty sure Louisville just got in the league, so it's good to see Louisville 7-2. They were ranked 9. They lost to Clemson. I'm pretty sure they played that game because we held the league for them to play that game. So um, Tracy's not a new user though. Tracy's been here actually with Louisville, so still see the good Louisville where they're at. 3-2. I personally am a fan of Louisville in real life, so um, it's cool to see him up here. I wonder how his recruiting is go. We'll take a look at that later. But it's got Kansas, which I'm hearing is a good user, so maybe this would be a good game. He lost at the crib though versus Clemson, so that's a little troubling because he has to go into Kansas. So he's got to lock back in. He's got to focus up and try to get a win out there in Kansas. Kansas State went from not ranked to 19 after a couple losses in the mid-pack section, and then they play LSU this week. So he's got to be able to compete at LSU. It's going to be tough out there in Baton Rouge. Don't really know what his recruiting class looked like this year coming in, but I know Kansas State in general isn't a bad team. Um, kind of defensively built, if I recall. So hopefully he's able to get some points out there at LSU. I think this could be a close one until it's not, if the offense stalls for Kansas State. All right, so we got Penn State, Ben Savage, who is an Xbox guy for real, so he'd be having to like switch over to PlayStation when he's trying to play these games. Wish he was a little bit more active because he's definitely a good user. Try to reach out to him and get him a little bit more active into these games, just because I would like to see some better comp out of some of these guys that I know can kind of play a little bit. I know everybody's got a schedule, everybody keeps up. If you guys want to poach out to me some ideas to get things active, we thought about doing game of the weeks. We thought about doing a couple other things to um, kind of get things to how they were, at least where like Madden activity. We weren't even fully full in Madden, and the activity was just a little bit better. I know it's a little bit more time intuitive for college, but it's better results when you go out there and you really work for the team that you're trying to bring in. Um, but these are the top 25. Next thing we'll skip over to Heisman Watch and kind of look at some of the users, and then we'll go look at some of the teams with these users. So this actually looks different than how it was a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, it was still Arch Manning out of Texas winning this award, and then we had the Marquise Johnson, the Missouri receiver, like I said, and I want to say the Kentucky receiver was at like 5, but now you see we have Hemi Irvin, who we'll dive into, and then we'll dive into Marquise Johnson, Varian Brown, Noah Fafita. Sure, let's go with that. Um, but those are the Heisman. Those are the Heisman guys right now. Um, we'll dive into the awards watch first, and then we'll go look at the Heisman too. So obviously, if you're leading the Heisman, you're probably leading Player of the Year. It's the same order for the first 5, and then Kentucky's freshman quarterback is here, which is big because I know that means he's probably a scrambler. So he's probably fitting T's play style over there. Um, Kind of the same trend with me and Hemi Irving. Uh, and he's found his number one receiver that he's kind of leaning on to, get him through games and to get that quarterback built for next year. Um, then you see from Arch Manning, he dropped down. Like I said, he was leading, so he's dropped down some to Texas. I don't think he's lost, so maybe they're just kind of running the ball a little bit more, and it's not really showcasing Arch. But he's on this list, and then you also have another Kentucky player. Um, Marvin Luna, true freshman out of Texas, also paired up with Akbar, the quarterback. So seems like T's got some true freshman things going. Shout out to T. We'll dive into those guys later, definitely too. I go look at some of these freshmen. Best head coach of the year. Obviously, you're ranked one or two. Got the Heisman winner. It's going to kind of put you up there. I'm surprised Kentucky's a little bit farther down, but he's also um, joined late, so I wonder if that has to do with recruiting or if his record doesn't look like necessarily ours with everybody else's record and their bowls and things of that nature. Teams versus top 25. So who knows? But then you got Marlon, you got Zell. Um, Jody Glick, which is Jordan, Urban Meyer, hilarious, Adam, uh, Computer. So this guy didn't make it, coach. Doesn't surprise me, Tracy. J Dub, level 20, which is a little nice. And then Torselli, who joined this season, is already a level 8 CPU. And then Jack Raz Elite, level 16. So shout out to all these coaches, man. It's good to see some more users next year. Hopefully, we have all users and the best head coach, best quarterback. So although Kentucky's quarterback is up there for the Heisman and a couple other things, he's not up here for best quarterback, which is a little surprising as far as in the top right here. He's not even up here at all. Um, so Hemi, Noah, and Arch at 4. Best defensive player, we have Jacob Manu, right outside linebacker out of Arizona. Then we have free safety Hardaway from Kentucky, senior. These are both seniors. Another senior for Texas, the pass rusher 31. Thank God he's gone next year. Harold Perkins, a senior. So you see a trend right here. The offensive guys kind of vary a little. You see some freshmen, some redshirt freshmen. Um, uh, then defense. You're seeing a little bit more senior heavy. I think it's just awareness, play rec. Kind of what you're doing at this point on defense or offense. You can make some things really just happen on the fly, and on the go. Um, so it's looking pretty defensive heavy here. Uh, and then Sterling Lane for Arizona up here as well. Hold on, let me give a shout out to those guys. But there goes a Kentucky, another player, another senior. So these are all upperclassmen. There goes one sophomore for Kentucky, a senior. So clear to see that these guys have defensive players stepping in there. Juniors and seniors mostly. Um, so shout out to those teams. Kind of just staying on the top 5 if I see some other go down. So Kentucky, as far as best defensive back, which doesn't surprise me. Like I said, Kentucky's one of the best coaches I know in the game, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He basically has his whole starting 5 secondary back here for best defensive back. So he's bound to win one of those. I don't even need to go through all the names, but again, senior, another junior for Notre Dame. So shout out to him, a sophomore, senior, and a redshirt freshman. Ohio State has some up here. Bellamy, who we got through the transfer portal. It's good to see him up here. A freshman that we're playing, Bill Goldberg, Jermaine Matthews, cornerback, another Kentucky player, um, a sophomore, and a junior out of Texas. So we only have the only true freshman up here, and everything else is sophomores, juniors, redshirt freshmen. Best running back, Dylan Edwards. Good to see him up here. He's a dog. Uh, Transferred from Colorado to Kansas State. So good to see his story kind of go here. As a junior, then you have redshirt freshman Caden Durham from Texas over here at LSU, 5'9", 195, doing his thing. Another Kentucky player right here in the top five, Jason Patterson, sophomore, Florida. Rayshawn Luke, California for Arizona. Then you got Louisville, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas, Kansas, all running the rock pretty well. The running backs. Best receiver, standing alone. Don't see another receiver down here to the bottom. You have Marquise Johnson from Missouri, 5'11", 180 junior. He might be pushing towards the draft the way he's playing with him. Barian Brown, and then the last year Heisman, Nick Harbor from Kentucky. So shout out to those coaches. I know they're throwing the rock. Best D line, starting off with the Texas end. That doesn't surprise me. He's a freaking man child. Um, Trey Moore, the senior. Then you have sophomore and a senior from Kentucky, D end, Antoine Smith, D tackle, Keyshawn Silver, Arizona, Sterling Lane, Joshua Mickens from Ohio State. That's the top five. In the round off, you have Texas with an end, Scorton. Texas A&M with an end, Scorton. Texas with an end, Burt. Two Texas players. Oregon with an end, Rushing. It's a dope last name. Kentucky with their third player, D tackle Gadsden. Washington with their first player, Holtzcall. LSU with Relford at end, freshman redshirt. That's what's up. And then senior Kenneth Grant at 10 for Ohio State got through the portal as well. So that's two guys for Ohio State's portal that are kind of up here making some noise. Senior quarterbacks, which I don't know if anybody's playing any, probably not, which is why there's no users. Best defensive end, you have Trey Moore for Texas, so he's up here for obviously the other award, um, and the Lombardi Award, and then the Best DN Award. Um, Lane, Antoine Smith, Scorton, Joshua Mickens, Rushing, Relford, Burke, Holtzclaw, and Bain for Miami. So first Miami sighting up, see it up there. Interior offensive lineman, Georgia Fairchild. He's a dog. Draft pick, probably going the first round. He's extremely good. Alabama's Brailford, extremely good. Another Alabama offensive lineman that'll be going to the draft. So these first five guys will probably go to the draft. Caden Green from Missouri, junior, true junior. Another Alabama player, and Utah, which is a little surprising. First Utah sighting. Texas tight ends. Obviously, Georgia's been producing some crazy tight ends in real life. So Georgia, Mason Taylor, Eli Raridon, Kentucky's, Notre Dame, Alabama, Missouri, Florida State, down here with some guys. All right, so this is the Brills Award, Assistant Coach of the Year award. So as we're ranked one in a couple other categories, Ohio State's offense and defense coordinator ranked one. Texas DC is two, three. Kentucky's OC is four. Texas OC is five. Kentucky's DC is six. LSU is back-to-back DC OC at 7-8. Notre Dame is back-to-back OC DC at 9-10. Florida's defensive coordinator is at 11, and Texas A&M offensive coordinator at 12. Shout out to those coaches. Best linebacker, Arizona, Manu, LSU, Perkin, Notre Dame, Snead, Kentucky, Fear, Bry, and Texas, Anthony Hill. Round-offs with weeks at 8 for LSU. Villamua Asa for Notre Dame at 9, and Alabama Campbell at 11. Best center, we have Alabama center at 1, makes sense. We have Oklahoma center at 5, Georgia center at 6, and Ohio State center Foster at 11. Best kickers, don't really expect to see any users. Best punters, who's punting that rock? Penn State. Shout out to Penn State for their first sighting. Best returner, Colorado, Draylon Miller, and Chris Hunter for Arizona, Clemson's Antonio Williams, and LSU's Avian Thomas. So shout out to those coaches, shout out to those players for stepping, uh, doing their thing. Gonna go look at now. Uh, go look at bowl projections. Well, I'm gonna look at the bracket as is right now. Um, so the bracket right now, this is what it would look like if the playoffs started today. Let me take a picture of this for the chat too, because I don't know if we've sent a bowl uh, thing yet. So if the playoffs was to start today, you got Kentucky, Ohio State, and Texas on a bye right now. If it was to start today, Ohio State and Arizona on a bye right now. Then you would have Alabama playing Boise State, who's technically a qualifier right now, till we get everything filled. Um, it's kind of going to be that way. Boise State versus Alabama, so Dub will have to go and play. I mean, at Boise State, we have to go to Alabama and play. Um, Texas A&M versus LSU would be a dogfight of a game. Just you know, two two SEC teams type built, um, going off to match up at LSU at Baton Rouge. That'd be a good game. Auburn, which doesn't have a user, so they'll be getting the loss versus Notre Dame right now. We'll be looking to fix that. Just down the road as we continue to give CPU losses that are playing the other CPU. And Oregon versus Missouri, kind of the underdog for Missouri right there, but if they wanted to earn their stripes, they got to either move up to try to get to that sixth spot or potentially even, you know, just have to find a way to fight through Oregon. And they'll be at home, so they'll get that blessing. Um, but, it's definitely not going to be an easy game. So this would have looked like right now. Shout out to those teams. Um, Continue to push through and try to see, if you can get to that bye or if you can definitely just secure that qualifier for the first round. Um, Bowl projections right now. I'm just looking for users. So Ellis, that's the first round of the playoffs. First round. Miami would play in the Las Vegas Bowl versus Illinois. We had TCU user, but they left because it's ass. Iowa would play in the Detroit Bowl versus Western Michigan. Penn State would play in the Pop Tarts Bowl versus Minnesota. Washington would play Texas Tech in the Alamo Bowl. UNC and Florida. Oh, UNC and I don't know if UNC left. Did UNC leave? Yeah, UNC left. He quit against Michigan. So Florida State would play North Carolina in the Relinquist Bowl. Sugar Bowl would be determined. Kansas would play CPU. Ole Miss in the Citrus Bowl. Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Cotton Bowl to be determined. Utah would play Nebraska in the Gator Bowl. And South Carolina would play Northwestern in the Music City Bowl. Not missing any teams. Michigan would play Fresno State in the LA Bowl. Um, Auburn isn't a user. Herbert has to take some time off. Colorado would play Army in the Fenway Bowl. Kansas State would play Hawaii in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Florida would play Tennessee in the Holiday Bowl. Georgia would play Virginia Tech in the Texas Bowl. Oklahoma would play UTSA in the Liberty Bowl. Louisville would play Duke in the Military Bowl. And Clemson would play Old Dominion in the Birmingham Bowl. See what games happened already. It's only been 3 games played. Kansas State lost to LSU at LSU 35-14. Um, Ohio State beat Michigan, Iowa 54-28 at Iowa, and Louisville played Kansas and won 35-13. Dive into those Heisman's. Um, Starting from with Noah Fifita for Arizona. All right, so Redshirt Junior from California, uh, 91 overall, 145 for 201 with 2,434 yards, 29 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 72 completions, averaging 12 yards an attempt, with 11 sacks in 8 games played. These are solid stats. He's running the ball quite well. Fafita is not really a running quarterback, labeled field general, so not running the ball definitely with him. Spreading the ball around from a little bit of receivers and tight ends, 3 receivers, almost about to crack plus 500 yards, tight end, and another receiver down here. Running backs aren't really a lot of his game, but they do seem to get some significant catches. But definitely spreading the ball around tight end wise. Everybody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different people have touchdowns. So Definitely spreading the ball around and getting good protection from his O-line. Um, Next, we have Variant Brown with Kentucky. True senior, 94 overall. Um, 36 catches for 940 yards, averaging 26 yards a catch, 105, 104 and a half a game with 9 touchdowns. Half of his yards are basically after the catch. Longest of 93. He almost racks a first down, basically racks a first down and then some after every catch. He does get 9 games played, 1 drop out of 36 receptions, so probably 50 targets, give or take 50 something targets. So really impressive at 6'1", 174. Definitely earning himself a draft pick. And the way that he's playing with him, probably going to go in the first round. Uh, so shout out to Variant Browning. Then you got Missouri's receiver at 2, Marquise Johnson, 38 catches for 1,512 yards, averaging 40 yards almost a catch, and 189 per game, 19 touchdowns. This is definitely second person at Heisman. 4 drops, 5'11", 180, so a little bit of a smaller guy. His overall is 80 overall, so definitely impressive there on the nature. So if he comes back for his junior year, 80 overall, he's probably looking at like an 88, maybe even a 90 overall with this type of like stature. And he's an impact player, so not better than star, but or elite, but still better than normal. So definitely looking at like an 88 minimum upgrade here if he comes back. Shout out to him. And looks like out of the 29 catches, 29 touchdowns for his quarterback, 19 are to that receiver. So definitely his favorite weapon out there on the field for Sam Horn. And then at number 1 for the current Heisman, you have true freshman Hemi Irving for the Ohio State, 173 for 234 for 2,746 yards, 28 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 73 completion percentage, averaging almost 12 yards an attempt, sacked 20 times in 11 games and 459 downs played. Hemi definitely has the carrying aspect though. 100 carries for 560 yards and 10 touchdowns. So altogether, he has 38 touchdowns and 4 fumbles. We don't know if all those are recovered, but 4 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Um, it's just long being for 79 that I'm almost sure he scored on. So Hemi's definitely a two-way street on the scrambler aspect. Definitely is a problem to have to worry about on defense. A lot of plays can be dialed up for him where they're not even necessarily run plays, but we're just going to run the ball with him. But really doing good at commanding the offense. As you can see, my other quarterbacks actually do have a little bit of burn per se. Um, it's more about the, the downs. He's missed about what's that, 40 downs he's missed due to either being just banged up or wear and tear. We've had to change course of the offense a little bit. Still some touchdowns here out of saying, as you see though, but he's definitely a key focal part of the offense, and kind of building his toughness up for that. It didn't show his overall, showed everybody else's. Uh, he's a 78, so it's true freshman 78, right under Marquise at an 80 as a junior. So um, he's definitely one of those guys that you just can't wait to see what the future holds for him. And to be real with y'all, he's really only a 3-star gem impact. So it's not a 4-star, it's not a 5-star. This is why we say recruiting matters. He's a 3-star. He's a 3-star gem, fellas, from Ohio, and we kept him in state. So shout out to him. Shout out to Hemi. Shout out to all the rest of the Heisman guys up there too. And I would go to all of the freshmen, but it's not necessarily easy. I could. Uh, um, oh, I know what I will do. I don't want to give y'all too much sauce. So right now, top recruiting classes as follows. You have Ohio State at 1 with 6 5 stars, 14 4 stars, and 3 3 stars. Um, we were top 3 in recruiting class last year. We came out here coming off the college football playoff championship. Um, haven't really moved outside of the top 10 at all. We did move to like 8 or 9 when we lost to Texas early, but we've been pretty bounced back since. So it doesn't really surprise me. We have one more recruit than Alabama, um, but Alabama has a couple more 3 stars than we do, and the same amount of 5 stars just about. So that's why you see they're only 8 points behind us. Um, Not really competing to be number one. Would just like to be a top 5 class again to show some consistency. Got Alabama at 2, which I think had the number one class last year. Had a couple more 5 stars, so now they've kind of changed their motive to some 4 stars for some depth. Um, and Alabama's doing real good. I'm sorry, I was on Georgia shit talking about Alabama. Alabama had like 8 5 stars last year, so they got 5 this year. A couple more 4 stars, and then definitely some more 3 stars that normally I'm used to them seeing. So maybe he found some gems or some people for long-term development. Next year he doesn't can't really go and get 35 every year. You'll fuck up your roster that way. And some of those guys you bring in, you won't even really ever get to see them play or develop. So got to be tactical about who you bring in after year like 1 and 2. So shout out to Alabama. Got Georgia, who's not ranked, but still a blue blood, still a powerhouse, who's out here recruiting. Has 17 4 stars, so I think that's just him understanding that if Ohio State and Alabama have 11 5 stars, then I need to go ahead and work my way to the 4 stars, and he's doing a good job at it without being ranked. So he's selling those guys on real talks, not necessarily hopes and dreams of being the most competitive. Then you got Miami with no 5 stars, 19 4 stars, and 2 3 stars in the top 5. They were not ranked last week, and now they're ranked this week, so that's changed. So I think this is just him understanding, Florida and doing better than the other Florida teams, honestly, and investing his time into recruiting and making sure he gets those guys to keep his program on the right track. So shout out to Pat. Bunch of CPU teams. Got SMU out here grabbing 5 stars. Um, got Texas at 12 with 1 5 star, 6 4 stars, and 2 3 stars. I think Texas does recruit. I just don't think he's truly figured it out all the way yet. So I know last year he had a better class, just by a little bit, but still a couple more weeks left. Still more recruits to be brought in. But he's definitely the best school out of Texas. So you wonder if he's just not doing enough to actually hone him in and bring him in and get him to sign that dotted line, or if he's just overlooking his state himself. And you got LSU at 14 recruiting class. Um, LSU definitely will compete in the recruiting because I think he doesn't understand what he's doing. His just fluctuates based off of if he loses or if he underperforms at certain aspects. But I think he does understand what he's doing with his recruiting class. He was ranked second last year in recruiting. I just think he's also trying not to over recruit and let some of these guys on his roster build up um, for him, which everybody's got their style or got their way. So I think LSU's in a good spot still. Down here, you got Missouri and Kansas, middle pack teams, but I think good users all the way around, especially Missouri. So good to see him up here in the top 25 as far as their recruiting class. Both of them have one 5 star, and Missouri has three 4 stars and three stars, while Kansas State, and even some 2 stars, while Kansas State has four, I mean 6 4 stars. So I think one's a little bit more aggressive on keeping their prestige high. Missouri is building for a little bit now and a little bit later, and just allowing his ladder effect to really build in. So it's good to see two different styles, but still ranking around the same spot. And then right outside of the top 25 at 30 is South Carolina, who I know can recruit. He just needs to get the activity a little bit up. 5 star, 3 4 stars, 2 3 stars, and a 2 star, which probably has to be a gem or a speed burner for him to go and get. So shout out to South Carolina. And then for a while, you don't see a lot. You see Kansas down here at 55. Notre Dame, who joined late, but not as late as like Kentucky, has 4 stars, which is surprising with Notre Dame. So they need to make more of a push, I think. He grabbed 3 receivers and a cornerback. So I think he's, just thinking very simple, not thinking about, linemen or linebackers and things like that. Like this isn't really Madden. Got to operate a little bit differently when it comes down to college and how you're going to want to be able to play um, when those guys get in. Can't re-sign nobody or trade for nobody or nothing like that. So you gotta give yourself the most opportunities as possible as far as bringing in those recruits. Florida down here, so you got some mid-pack recruits right here. Oklahoma got a group of people right here that's struggling. I know T just started, but Michigan and Penn State, like I said, activity. Michigan runs his own league, so he's got a lot of things going on at times, but definitely a little surprised here just because of the location, and both of their teams still have that prestige, regardless of their record, because we've seen, like I said, other teams not ranked, getting their recruit on. So a lot there. And then Arizona, who's doing really well, but just not grabbing any recruits, which is really surprising because he was high up on a lot of people's board. Oregon doing the same thing here, which is going to cost him. Florida State, A&M, Iowa, Louisville, Clemson, Colorado. So like these guys down here, in a matter of time, their programs will become shitty, and they'll probably be asking for like, oh, can we swap teams because they're not really, bringing the next man up. There will be no next man at some point. So, gonna have a talk with some of these coaches and just make sure that they at least are attempting to recruit. Giving scholarships, giving themselves at least a chance for some of those teams to just commit to them. So, this will wrap up the show, though, fellas. Um, Appreciate y'all for watching. Whoever watches later, peace. Hit me.